Many of us have had to move in our lifetimes, and if you had fond memories of your home, maybe you wish you could have taken it with you. Hi everyone, Ken here. Welcome to This House. Today we are exploring a home that was moved several states away for this very reason. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode of This House. In a previous video, we explored Edson Bradley Jr.'s mansion in Washington, D.C., known as Aladdin's Palace. If you did not see that video, it is okay. He was a whiskey baron who had moved to D.C. to fight against Prohibition, and while he was there, he built an incredible mansion full of masterfully crafted artisan work. When Prohibition became law, there was nothing left for him to do in D.C., so he decided to make the best of his circumstances. He set out to give his best friend and wife, Julia, the ultimate present for their 50th wedding anniversary, which was only a few years away. In 1922, Edson rehired the architect of Aladdin's Palace, Howard Greenlee, to design a vacation home for Julia. The Bradleys had loved their home in Washington, D.C. so much that they wanted to take it with them. They tasked Howard with the monumental feat of deconstructing the interior of Aladdin's Palace and reassembling it inside their new home in Newport. After several painstaking years of dismantling and reassembling, the new home, which would be named Seaview Terrace, was completed in 1925. It had cost over $2 million, or the modern-day equivalent of over $33 million to move the interior. The result was a Norman-style chateau boasting 54 rooms across 3 floors, including an entire tower, which had been transported from the previous house. The Great Hall rose 2 stories with limestone arches and niches cut into the walls. A large wooden balcony was intricately carved with relief work, facing an iron chandelier with tapestries and trophies decorating the walls. Even here, we can begin to see the Bradleys' collection of European artifacts, including shining suits of armor guarding the front door to either side. At the end of the hall, a tiger's hide lay sprawled out below a shrine depicting the Virgin Mary below the crucifix, one of the first things guests would see upon entering the Bradleys' home. Continuing on to the stair hall, you would pass over a Persian rug and below an intricately coffered ceiling soaring above European antiques. At the end of this hall was the staircase, protruding through an opening in an arcade, turning at each interval in line with the columns. The drawing room took on a more English-inspired design, with a large limestone fireplace supported by an octagonal post with a solid wood upper mantel, boasting intricate relief work. To either side of the hearth were French doors with leaded glass beneath 2 rows of transom windows. Though the walls and ceiling were monochromatic, the tapestries and heavily patterned fabrics brought in a plethora of colors, giving the space greater visual depth. Long corridors could be found meandering through the chateau, with Gothic windows feeding into a series of groin vaults suspending pendant lights from their centers. Continuing on, you would find the music room, fully reassembled from Aladdin's Palace, with large rounded ceilings and fluted Corinthian columns painted white. Once again, the only color came from the rich collection of fabrics and tapestries, accented by freshly picked flowers reaching 7 feet in the air. The walls were heavily textured with plasterwork crafted in a floral motif with geometric patterns in the frieze. The parquet floor below was kept freshly waxed to brilliantly reflect its warm tones about the painted ceiling. These floors continued into the dining room below the Jacobean ceiling. The walls were finished out with wood panels and decorated with antique tapestries. Though the table was set for only 4 people, it could be expanded to host much larger dinner parties. Of all the twists and turns throughout the chateau, there were mysteries to be discovered. Spy holes could be found looking into other rooms, and the only way to access the pipe organ room was by entering it through a trapdoor on the 3rd floor. In 1929, Seaview Terrace was finally finished, but unfortunately, in that same year, Julia passed away. Shortly after, the Great Depression hit and Edson transferred the house to the ownership of his daughter Julie, but her husband died suddenly. Together, Edson and Julie moved to a 20-room apartment in New York City to live out the rest of their lives, vacationing to Seaview Terrace together in the summer. Edson passed away in 1935, and Julie held on to Seaview Terrace until 1941 when the taxes became too great to afford. With no heirs to pass the house on to, she sold it before passing away in 1948, the last of the Bradley line. The house changed hands several times, even becoming a boarding school for a short while. In the late 1960s, it became the backdrop for the soap opera Dark Shadows and was given the fictitious name Collinwood Mansion in the hit ABC television show which gained the nickname The Vampire Soap Opera. In 1974, Seaview Terrace transferred ownership again to the Carey family, who leased it out to an adult entertainment production company. This caused an uproar in the tightly knit neighborhood, so the Careys leased out Winfield Hall, one of their other mansions, for filming to continue. As Seaview Terrace began to fall into decay, they brought in Donald Tinney of Belcourt Castle in Newport to aid in the restoration efforts. Since 2009, it has been used by the family as a private residence, though they have continued to allow filming, such as the production of the sci-fi series Stranded in 2013. Thank you all for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode of This House. I would also like to take a moment to say a special thank you to our This House supporters whose names you can see on screen right now. If you would like to see your name on the screen, please consider joining our membership program today. I'll see you next time on This House.